Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forward Motion. I'm Karen Allen. If he doesn't make you and me laugh tonight, we're kicking him out early, okay? It's Larry Rosenblum. He, of course, you know, by day, a boring CPA. Well, at least that's what I think. But, well, he's done something fabulous, and that's why he's on the show. He's written this book. I think it's kind of funny, actually. It's called Sure Dad, You Know Everything. Do you believe that? I think not one of his children are here to confirm this, but he believes it. I knew a father's whimsical guide to his children and then some. Lawrence N. Rosenblum, well known in the community for a lot of the contributions that he's given, questionable, I'm sure. As I said, though, knows a lot about numbers. And here to defend this book. Can I just tell you how many pages are in this, Larry?
You can tell me. I already know, but go ahead.
How many?
623. And that doesn't include the table of contents. So that's really 672.
Is this how much wisdom there is?
No, I apparently had a lot to say.
How long did it take you to write this thing?
15 years.
15 years?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked me the derivation of this book.
I was going to, but I'm glad you read my mind.
Well, good. So in ancient history, probably 20-something years ago, we were celebrating whatever holidays were people celebrate at the end of the year, and we got lots of cards, as you know, plenty of people do, and a few of them had these long, impersonal descriptions of their prior year.
You mean
all
those
these
letters that everybody gets? Dear X,
dear,
this is what we did all day, and
fill in the blank. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're reading them, and I'm just horrified by the terrible, boring events that they were describing. You know, Bobby's now potty trained, and Erica lost her first tooth. And I remember laughing about this with my then wife, and I said, you know what? I'm going to write a letter. And she said, why would you write something like that? I said, no. I'm going to write nothing like that. So I started our family annual tradition of writing the most insane and ridiculous letter that we include in our holiday cards. And I would come up with these ridiculous stories that made no sense. And the sad part was, so many of my friends that knew me well would read 3/4 of it and say, you know, you really got me. I was believing this stuff. I said, so you believed that we, as a family, flew to the Mir space station? Well, no, I didn't believe that part. Okay, so you believed that we won the lottery and didn't share any with you? Oh, no, yeah, that we believed. You believed that my daughter was the cheerleader at the Super Bowl, or my son was a bat boy in the World Series, or we were abducted by aliens. So every year I'd come up with, you know, I try to top myself, which was difficult. I'd come up with these just insane stories as a goof. And I found as I was writing this that I was really enjoying this. And around the same time, 15 years ago, I woke up from a really bad dream. I had dreamt that I was hit by a truck, and I dreamt that I was dead, and very unhappy about that. And the unhappiness really centered around the fact that I was dead, but it also reminded me that my children were in middle school at the time, and there was so much I wanted to tell them, but I was dead. I couldn't tell them. I could tell them in a subliminal way, but they, you know, God knows they didn't pay attention to me when I was alive. I figured when I'm dead, they're not going to pay any attention. So I thought, well, I know, I'm going to write this stuff down. I'm going to write all of my years and years of experiences, wisdom, observations. I'm going to write it down for them so that they'll have this if something ever happens to me. So I started writing, and it became, you know, an obsession. I mean, I'm writing feverishly about everything. And a topic would come in my head, and I would write it down. And in fact, in the foreword of the book, my children describe what that was like. That, I'd be in mid-sentence talking about something else. I'd remember, write on a napkin, I'd write, on the back of an envelope. And then I would think later on, I'd take that particular topic, I'd write a few sentences about it. And because I'm an accountant in my day job, and it's instilled in us to have lots of order in the things that we do. So, well, I'll have to put this in alphabetical order, which means it's completely random. So one topic has nothing to do with the next topic or the prior topic. And for instance, friendship follows farting. And they're really not related, although I guess it would depend on how well your friend
There
with
aren't.
people.
I mean, here's one called elbows on the table.
Elbows on the table.
Which is followed by elderly, but here's elbows on the table. So you can't put your elbows on the table? Why not? It's the best way I know to keep your head from falling into your food, right?
See?
There's one little burst of wisdom right there.
Now, that's a tremendous amount of wisdom. I thought a lot about that. This isn't something, you spend 15 years doing this. This took a lot of thought.
Especially when you're taught specifically, at least in my house.
Mine too.
Do not put your elbows on the table. It is just rude.
Right. It's forbidden.
But it's the best way to keep your head from falling onto your food, right?
Or keep your head from falling off, too. That happens.
That's true. Mm-hmm. That can happen.
It
so
can.
I guess that is wise. And here's one called Echo, also on the E page.
Mm-hmm.
Who thought up this Echo business anyway?
Oh, genius.
It sure is cool. Cool. That is some writing there.
Well, I'll tell you.
Talent.
Having spent all this time writing this, which ends up being, I think, close to 3,000 topics, you could tell me there's a topic in there, or you can lie and tell me there's not a topic in there, and I probably don't remember because there's just so much that my brain can store. So I'll read it sometimes, and I'll be fascinated by what I wrote. This guy's a genius. This is pretty smart. How'd you come up with that?
Is that what your children said?
No, my children are in their late 20s and early 30s, and they're still unimpressed by this.
Is there
effort.
any wisdom at all they found from this? Because a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek, and you know what? A lot of it's kind of decent thoughts. It's kind of like, you know what? The stuff's not bad. There's a lot of stuff here that kind of is good stuff. Not a bad kind of thing. Your someday grandchild, was going to pick this up and go, you know what? Here's one called Good Samaritans. I'm sorry, they should be called Great Samaritans.
They should be.
That's a pocket full of wisdom right there. You have a lot of, you can make fun of a lot of things in here and have some laughs, which would be nice, but, because I love that at your expense. But there's not some decent stuff in here too.
Well, it wasn't stream of consciousness. It really was, topics that I wanted to write about, and some are very serious. Some are, funny. Some are ridiculous. Some are observations. And in fact, at one point, when I was consulting with some of my friends, deciding what to do with this huge effort, and there were a few people that said, carve it up into 5 or 6 books. Have a funny book. Have advice to kids. Have advice to adults. Have observations. You can write 5 books out of this, and it wouldn't be, 9 million pages like that. And I thought about that for a while, and it really stopped me for about a year because I struggled with that. And I thought, what?
That's a lot of books.
They're too related.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that read an earlier version of this book. He said, you know what? Don't do that. He said, here's why. He said, I don't have time to read. I work 16 hours a day. I came home and started reading what you wrote. And I was up till 12:30 at night, laughing out loud, and finding topics that moved me. He said, I don't have time to ponder. Some of the things you wrote in there made me ponder. And he said, because I didn't know, after looking at the name of the topic, whether this was going to be silly, whether this was going to be thought-provoking, whatever it was, it crept up on me. I wouldn't seek those things out because I look for entertainment. But because they were hidden in here and they came you know, I turn a page and boom, there it is. He said, that really was a great effort to cause me to have to think. And I like to think. So that really convinced me to go ahead with my original concept, to just have all this stuff in there. And, you know, I think he was right, because if you give somebody a book of things to ponder, you know, that's just not that attractive today. You know, who cares what somebody has to say? And if you sneak it in or write a lot between the lines, and there's an awful lot that I've written between the lines in this book, I think it gets my message across. And what's my message? I'm glad you asked. My message is to my children, and this will survive me. And someday, in the distant future, when my children do find a reason to crack it open and look at some of the pages, they'll hear their father. They won't be able to escape their father. They'll hear him on every page. And if that's my legacy, I'm really happy with that.
You do actually have an entry here that says read between the lines. You'll never know what you'll find reading between the lines, especially these lines, unless you look very closely. See subtle. This is one of the beauties of the English language. We slow readers have a clear advantage with this one.
I'm a very slow reader.
Really?
And a slow writer, apparently.
Apparently, but you did have a day job.
I do.
Here's a couple of things that I thought were actually very nice and true. Reach out, this one's called. Extending your hand to someone who needs it speaks volumes about your character. You want volumes. That's nicely put. That's really nicely put.
What a smart man wrote that.
I don't know. Are you sure someone didn't? Your kid didn't write that for you?
You know, let me tell you, because this went through so many versions, I think this is probably version 30 by the time we're done with it.
Well, everybody in writing knows that. There's no such thing as version 1.
So my editor, who just did a fantastic job, her name is Maureen Vincent, just an unbelievable collaborator. I thought I was done with this book 2 years ago. And she said, okay, now what you have to do is read it from beginning to end. And make sure it flows, make sure it says what you want it to say, and has the right tone. Well, that was torture for me, because I didn't want to do it. Some of these entries were 12, 13 years old, and I didn't want to revisit that. I was so tired of writing this. The first 10 years was a lot of fun. The last 5 years was a lot of work. I said, I've had it. I'm done with this. It's ridiculous. No, you have to do it. It took 9 months, and I rewrote the book because it didn't flow right. And I'd look at something and say, what was I thinking? That is the dumbest thing. You know, that's coming out. And I'd turn the page and I'd say, oh my God, this is brilliant. Who did I steal this from? This is such a wealth of knowledge. Or I would even laugh at some of the stuff I wrote. It's like, boy, that guy has a sense of humor. So I almost threw my shoulder out, patting myself on the back. I thought, this is great. So, you know, it's been like I said, an evolution, and it's been a fun ride.
Here's another really one that I love. It's called Rage. By far, the biggest cause of blindness is rage. Wow.
That's why they call it blind rage. Got to think about it.
I love that one. That's one of the more interesting ones. You know, there's some goofy ones too. But now, you said it took you 15 years, and this thing is one big hunk of a book. Who published this? Did you self-publish?
There's an international publishing company called Sure Dad Publishing, LLC. Well known.
Well known.
They took me on. Did a great job.
Sure Dad Publishing. So
They were
you
great.
self-published. And what I guess I want to know is, you have loved to write for a long time, but I guess, you know, you kind of didn't get into it full time or enough time. And you, as you said, you love your day job.
I didn't say that.
Well,
you said that.
it makes a living.
It does.
You know.
No, my day job's great.
Yeah, I know, and you do love what you do, and I'm the one who called it boring, because CPA and numbers is, you know,
Oh, they're terribly boring.
tough on most of
my
us.
God.
But it's a great living, and for those people who are, you know, have the brain power to do that, more power to you. And you got to write on the side. this kind of initiates you into the world of writing / publishing. Will there be more? I know there will. And doesn't this give you a shot of self-confidence?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I was never a passionate writer. This was never something that I dreamed of doing. I like to write here and there, and I really, like I said, I enjoyed writing those stupid holiday letters. And it kind of took me into this, you know, when I was concerned that there was a lot that I wanted my children to know, and if I wasn't around, they wouldn't know it. That sounds like I was kind of full of myself, and I'm sure I was back then.
Well, we all know you are, but other than that.
So, you know, I became a passionate writer.
That's what I'm saying.
But I wasn't
this
before.
Is work.
I wasn't before. So, like I said, this wasn't my lifelong dream. So now here I am, you know, I've written a book, and it's pretty cool to look at because it's like, geez, how did that happen? And to answer your question, yes, there is a second book. The second book, which I've already started, is a more traditional book. Stories. They're anecdotes. They're self-deprecating anecdotes. They're mostly true. We, you know, stretch the truth here and there when it was appropriate. But I started at the earliest memories that I had of just goofy things that I did or stupid situations I was in. And I think I'm up to about 16 years old. And I gave it to a few people that I knew to look at. I said, you know, what do you think? Am I on the right track or what? And two of them said the same thing. Every baby boomer is going to read this book, is going to want to read this book. I said, you know, this particular guy said, I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed laughing at some of the, you know, idiocies that you've lived through. But more importantly, it made me remember things that I never remembered as a kid growing up. I remember my dad taking those 8mm movies with the blinding lights, and we're all like this because you couldn't see.
My dad had those too.
Well, you know, all of our dads did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember the first time I stumbled through a sexual encounter with a girl. Now, you probably didn't have that same experience.
Nope.
But, yeah. So, you know, they identified with it. And that's motivating me to get back to it. I mean, I haven't had time, and I expect to get back to it.
Well, because your son is now married, and you are in that next phase of your life, really.
Which phase is that?
The divorced, moving on, girlfriend, married son. You know, you're certainly not in your golden years yet.
No.
You're just past your midlife crisis.
I never had a midlife crisis.
Well, there you go. See, you're past it. And
no, I'm just getting warmed up.
Right, and you have an established career, so you can take the time out, you know, to write. And so, like you said, you're thinking about your memories, your childhood, your dad with the 8mm camera, and you can start writing and get serious about those anecdotes, put them on paper, and really give some time to craft now, because you really like writing.
I do.
And you can get started on your next bobblehead.
I probably won't have another one. One's enough.
This is for sure, Dad. This is a cute little gift, isn't it? This is really looks like Larry a lot. Larry N. Rosenblum. What is the N for? Oh, Nebbish. Don't need to answer that. Anyway, so amazing things you can find on the website. SureDad.com?
SureDad.com, that's where I am.
Just thought I'd mention that because there's other information about you on that website.
There is. I especially wanted to...
So people can contribute anecdotes about you. Because you're from Fair Lawn, New Jersey.
I am.
And you're proud of it. And anyone from Fair Lawn, New Jersey, or who knew Larry when, you might want to contribute anecdotes for his next book, because he really needs a lot of material. And
no, I don't.
He's looking for it. Don't listen to him. Yeah. He needs all the help he can get.
Good. I got it.
He says he's good, but clearly he needs help, because this says it all. Anyway, so you're going to embark on a second career as a writer.
I don't know that that's the case. I'm
See,
enjoying writing, and if people like it, that's great. And if they don't, that's okay too.
Now, what if I want to write a book and I want Sure Dad to publish it for me?
You'll have to talk to the publisher. I don't know that I could help you.
What do you think of that idea?
Yeah.
I thought so. I knew it. Look, he's shaking his head. Very cooperative.
Yeah. Now, wouldn't you be surprised if he starts talking back to you?
No, I would not. Because, all right, so I think it's great. I think what you're doing is great. I think I asked you on the show because this whole idea is cool. I think it's funny. I love people that write. I love people that create from their own memories and their heart and their passion and, you know, and just come up with neat, fun stuff. And if they self-publish, all the more, because there's a lot of work to that. That's a lot of work.
So let me tell you about my illustrator.
Yes, please do, because your illustrations are. Put that picture up again, Dee, and show everybody the cover of the book, because it's so amazing, and all the illustrations inside the book, too.
Hillary Miles, I've known since before she was born.
It's really cool. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Hillary Miles. Tell us about her.
She's one of the more creative people I've ever known. Like
Beautiful
I said, I've known
stuff.
her since she was little. Very close friends of mine, practically family. And I've known them for 40 years plus, and this is their daughter. And she's an artist. And early on in this endeavor, I said, Hillary, here's a version of this book. Come up with stuff. We're going to need, illustrations. And she came up with so many of these things that are just brilliant. And they have just the right flavor to it. But the best part is the cover, which is the logo. People have said to me, boy, this is just so inviting. I've given my business card, which is the logo of this book, or the logo, which is the cover of this book, to people, and without me even talking.
Bookmark. Isn't that cute? Oh,
have my
wow.
card. Without me even talking about the book, without me saying anything about it. Oh yeah, I wrote this book here. Oh, I got to buy it. Just looking at it, people find it inviting, which is kind of cool.
So cute. Here's the other side.
So
now
have your finger over my head, if you don't mind.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a
Good.
reason for
Yeah.
that.
Huh? Yeah.
I think it's adorable that you got everything to match and so coordinated, but I mean, that not everybody can afford that on their first tryout, but God bless you for doing that.
Well,
That's very cool.
This
Very
was
cool.
never intended to be a money-making venture for me. If it was, it would be
Extraordinary.
a print-on-demand soft cover book. I wanted to do it right.
Fantastic.
And, like I had said, this is fun to share with people I know. And I've given out a lot of books to friends. And if they get a chuckle out of this and they get some enjoyment out of this, then I've done my job.
I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it. I think it's fun. Have you sold a lot of books, by the way?
I have not. Funny you should ask. Well, we've only had the book for about a month.
I got you right at the top of your national tour then. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Well, it's
/
an international tour. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I got that. I think that's super.
So we have lots of books to sell.
But and your book signings will be a plethora of book signings, I'm sure.
After tax season, there'll be lots of book signings. Yes.
At various places.
Yes.
I'm sure that people can go to the website and find
sure
out
they
exactly
can. Yeah.
where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Starting in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, I'm sure.
Well, funny you should say that. Someone that I graduated high school with has already offered. So we'll have one.
I think that's fantastic.
Up and down the East Coast, I'm sure there'll be
myriad.
At least 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
How many books does one print for the first time when one actually does self-publish?
One typically prints many fewer than I did.
Oh, but you printed a lot. Okay.
Yeah, we printed
It's gonna be a
1,500.
Okay.
And I budgeted to give away, almost a third of that, which I've done, to friends and TV producers and other people.
The press.
Yeah. Oh, the press. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the press. So that's
So
good.
the rest are ready to sell, and then we'll see if this goes someplace. Then we'll print some more and see what happens.
Okay, I think it's great.
We expect by the end of this month to be up and running on Amazon. Right now, just the website is the only place to get them. But we wanted to have our ebook version available when we went to Amazon. So that's all being done, and then we'll launch that.
Well, whatever you do, the important thing is to keep on writing and producing interesting material from your perspective, which I think you can share with the
There's no
community.
shortage of material.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important. And you plan to continue your community service in Montgomery County as well? As you have a strong
that,
resume
yes.
here of professional affiliations and career experience and philanthropy and things like that.
I try.
Okay. And, well, we should look forward to your next book, which will be approximately this decade? Just want to confirm. We don't need a date.
I think
we just need a decade.
I think in a year or so it should be ready.
Okay.
It already has a title.
What's the title?
The title is Sure, Dad, That's How It Happened.
That's a great title. That's a wonderful title. Just before we go, is there any public reaction or community reaction so far to this book?
You know, I've expected differing, views from people on this. The worst that I got was a friend saying, yeah, I see you wrote a book, that's nice. I'm going to stick it on my bookshelf. I have no time to read it, but maybe someday I will. That's the worst reaction I got.
Wow, that's great.
So I'm really pleasantly surprised because I'll have people, and this is, I'm not making this stuff up. I gave this to my mother-in-law. She hates everything. She hates everybody. God, she loves your book. She thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. And, I knew my friends would get a kick out of this because they hear me. They hear my voice. But when it goes to strangers, that's the kick for me. If somebody doesn't know me or know anything about me, enjoys this book, well, that's fun for me.
That's good. Well, I hope you get a lot more enjoyment out of it from people enjoying it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, it's called Sure Dad, You Know Everything. The website is suredad.com. This is Larry Rosenblum, Larry N. Rosenblum. This is Larry Rosenblum, and I'm Karen Allen. Thank you for watching Forward Motion. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.